Hi, I'm Nicola, the content manager at Fibre Arts Take Two, and I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the lands where Take Two is based. Imagine this. Sun rays peek through handmade wool curtains and tickle your eyes awake. The sound of running water, a small pond in the garden, ushers you into consciousness. The dog notices and comes to greet you as the smell of fresh coffee brews. Eyes fully open to the world around you, you see a goat's head mounted above your bed, plants draped over unfinished timber shelves, and drying flowers lining the walls, dancing like ballerinas. This is just a glimpse of being a guest of artist Lydia Miller. This past August, I had the privilege of staying with Lydia in her country home in Lake Cowichan on Vancouver Island. Lydia is an artist whose work weaves together the raw beauty of nature and the curiosity of the human spirit. From bull kelp and cedar boughs to antlers and avocado skins, her sculptural weavings transform foraged and organic materials into living, breathing works of art. In our conversation, Lydia shares her journey from studying fibre arts in the city to foraging on the rugged West Coast, her philosophy of following curiosity, and the balance between creating joy and navigating the pressures of commercial art. Whether you're a maker, a gardener, or simply someone who loves the intersection of art and ecology, Lydia's perspective will leave you inspired to see the natural world and your creativity in a new light. Let's dive in. Welcome!
Nice to see you.
So nice to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I've had a long day, but I'm feeling good. Salty fresh.
Yes. So you have been foraging for kelp. Is that right?
Yeah, I kind of
or salmon fishing? What have you been doing?
I piggybacked a kelp forage onto the back of my neighbor's salmon fishing trip. So in order to get the kelp, I had to try fishing. So I did that, and I was pretty successful, surprisingly.
Were you happy to be successful? Or I think if I went fishing, I'd be like, I actually don't really want to catch one.
It was actually pretty amazing. And now I have fresh salmon to eat in my fridge for the next couple. It's a little weird for sure. And we don't keep them all. So caught one, and then in the first 20 minutes, which I guess is really good, I was like, oh, that's good. We got two, kept the first one, released the second one. The third one was huge, so big I couldn't reel it in and it broke the line. And then the fourth one was a little baby, so we put most of them back, and then we ended up catching I think one more right at the end, and I think they usually take two home.
So yeah, just to paint the picture for our listeners and for me. So were you on the ocean? Where are we at in the salmon season? Are you in the river or are you in the ocean?
No, we're in the ocean. So the ocean, because they're going to be spring. Is that what they're called when they're big, or they're adults or whatever? They have to be big enough, and they have to be within the legal size to catch kind of thing, right? So it's not a free for all. But it was.
So you caught some salmon, and were you successful in the what is a successful kelp foraging?
It just means get some nice fresh kelp out the ocean. Usually when I go get it, it's in January or February after the winter storms have kind of washed a bunch of it on shore, and it's nice and cold, so it's preserved. But if I'm foraging for it, I'm also digging through moldy kelp, and it's not always so fresh, so it doesn't last as long. So this stuff, there's just a huge kelp forest off the rocky West Coast there, and so we kind of just pulled up to it in the boat and then just basically grabbed a handful. And if they're attached to the bottom or attached to each other, they're really hard to pull out. So we just had to look for some that were kind of loose or just cut a few off. I think I only took about 6 lengths because they're quite long, and I don't really have any way to preserve them. So I have to use them in the next day or two, especially because it's very hot here right now. So if I don't do that, they'll start to degrade and they won't dry out nicely like I like them to do in my 3D weavings.
Yeah, I might just pull up one of my favorites while we're talking about it so the people who are watching can see. And this is a question that we often start with. especially for our listeners. So I'll just put this up on the screen now.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice one.
I think that's a good example. But the question is, how would you describe your art to someone who has never seen it before?
Well, I have to say it often, but I always kind of tongue-tie my words. I guess I just say that I weave with organic found materials into either like kind of organic tapestries, or I call them like 3D weavings, because they're not always flat against the wall. Sometimes they are, but they're also can take forms depending on what I'm using, whether it's sticks or antlers or whatever. So I pretty much have to just show the pictures because it's hard to put
no, I think you did that great. I think you explained that great. Yeah. Okay. And it gives us a bit of context as well, thinking about, that you were the kelp that you were going to forage and why you were foraging it and what that end result looks like. Yeah. So I wonder, I can't help but think, because I don't think it's very I don't know if it's a standard thing that people forage for kelp. What did your neighbor think? Was he like, yeah, for sure?
Yeah, totally. Pretty much. He's like, oh yeah, what do you use it for? Pretty much. It's funny because I'm pretty introverted. I like to when I go out, I try to find places that are as quiet as possible. So eventually, once in a while I do come across a person while I'm lugging, because these things are really heavy too. They're very long, very thick, fleshy things filled with water. So they're very heavy. And so I can only take, when I'm walking, a couple at a time on my own. And so people are always like, what are you doing that for? And I'll tell them. But lots of people forage kelp because it the stuff that's already breaking down is a great mulch for your garden. It's superfood for roses and stuff like that. And I think tomatoes really like it as well. You can also use it for medicinal purposes for yourself and your pets. So people will, an additive to their foods and things like that. So I don't think it's that weird that I'm going out and getting it, which is good.
You are I always try to describe you to my friends and family, and I just feel like you're a botanist, or you just naturally know so much about what you just said there. You just said 5 different things. So what kelp can be fertilizer for your soil. People use it for, what was the other thing that you just said? They grind it up and use it for what? For medicinal?
Like a supplement. I think it's rich in iron and vitamins and minerals. I don't know specifically, but it's good for you as well as animals, I'm pretty sure.
That is so cool. And I feel like it's really
cool. It's amazing stuff. And it's so cool because I hadn't seen it up close on we were just on this little 2-person fishing boat, speedboat thing. So it was very close to the water, and you just pull up and you just see, because they have this long, beautiful hair stuck to the top of them. The bull kelp is what I was looking for specifically. And so those are just floating up through the water, and then there's the strands that are hanging down, and it was just it's so nice to see. So it's a beautiful forest of kelp, and it was beautiful scenery. And then I was I'm gonna go out and take you home. No, but I was stronger than me.
And you give exposure to the things, I think, that are naturally, so mysterious and hidden in the ocean. You kind of bring them to the surface. I'm picturing Ariel vibes, you bring them. You take these things that we don't really get to see all the time, or the average person doesn't really get to see, and you make them, you expose us to them in a new kind of way. I don't know what bull kelp is. I don't think I could imagine what that would look. I can maybe imagine what that would look like. I've seen, but all I think of with seaweed is ooh, or or sushi. Yeah. It's so cool that you bring that to life in your
that was a cool. I wouldn't have known either until I had moved out to the island here, and it was a colleague of mine who literally picked up some algae off the beach and was you should weave with this, and I was okay. So I have to send props out to Nat for starting that. But yeah, and then I just like some like kind of break apart or whatever, but there are some that dry really nicely and they kind of like will change color over time as well, which is kind of interesting to watch. And the kelp dries like as hard as wood, and so as long as it stays like in drier conditions, it'll just like that shape.
Yeah,
and,
almost like leathery.
Yeah, a little bit, but like with like feels like the tree, like a tree trunk when you touch it. Like it's not like a fleshy, soft feel. Like it's quite rigid and hard. So it blends with the sticks a lot, really nicely. You can't really tell like where it ends or like the next material begins, which I kind of like the ambiguity of that, because you don't really know exactly what ecosystem they're coming from, but they're familiar as well. And so that was an interesting thing as well.
Yeah, and I guess...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, just like you said, bringing like the elements in, because that is, I think, an important part of my practice, because a lot of us live in environments and we don't even have a connection with like what's growing around us, you know, just because of lifestyle or circumstance or whatever. So just want to put it back in that it's there, which is nice. Or or if you have to like live in a city and you grew up somewhere that was more wild, it's nice to have pieces of that inside, you know, with you, things that you can like smell and look at and think about. So
yeah, and that you said something earlier that really just clocked on me. So when I first met you, we were both living about 8 hours inland in a little town called Nelson, BC. And you weren't working with kelp then, were you? No. You were working mainly with, well, I'm going to put one of my favorite artworks that you've made. You probably know which one this is. This one is called With Poise and Vexation, just for our listeners. So this is to kind of give an idea of what Lydia's work was like while we were inland before the kelp. Can you explain this one?
Before that. So this one's interesting too. Yeah, because this one is from Calgary. So it was in my final year of my fine arts degree. And that is actually a deconstructed bamboo blind. So I was like in the city and I luckily had those antlers given to me. So
sorry, Lydia, can we pause before? So just for our listeners, we're looking at moose antlers sitting on top of a stool. It looks like a wooden stool with bamboo. Did you say like reeds? Would I be right in saying reeds?
Yeah, they would be reeds.
Woven into this kind of ovally spherical shape. It's almost as if the moose stuck its head in to a bamboo sphere that you had pre-woven or something and took it out and thought, oh, that looks nice, actually. I'll keep that.
Nice.
So, sorry, you were saying you actually made this even further inland. You made this in Calgary.
Yeah, which is like a city, and like where I was living, it's just, you know, like concretes and buildings and things like that. So like my accessibility to foraging things, and especially with my timetable, like it didn't work. So I had to go into like the urban environment and find something as natural as I could that would be flexible and stuff enough to like make into the shape. So so it's funny because it's not a native material to Calgary or to Canada really in general, but because of like this one kind of speaks to like being within the urban environment and kind of just like having to find the resources that you can, because it's not like readily available to you like it is out here. So that's why I like this one. And then when I moved to Nelson, it was easier for me to actually forage pieces. So then I started using like cedar boughs because they're quite flexible, and willow and things that were growing, dogwood, stuff that has, that's dogwood. And flax, actually, from like a local farm in my hometown. And the dogwood, I think I foraged with my mom from a marsh.
That is so, I love that idea of, and I want to go back to this idea of, with poise and vexation and the, city, if you want to make natural art, and I think a lot of our students would resonate with this, like we want to make things that evoke the natural world, but we're in these gray like cities that are mostly like planted out and curated, very highly curated, and it's not really cool to go out and pluck things. But I think that the title of this work, and I love words, and when I come across a word that I don't entirely know the meaning of, I go to online etymology, which is like the root of the word. So what I've done is I just I looked at poise and I looked at vexation, and it's almost as if you've got like that, I don't know, that city energy, and that same thing where this moose has walked in and adapted, he's walked in and he's grabbed this piece of, as I said before, this piece of perfect weaving that you might see, as a lamp in a nice like home goods store. It's that like mix of poise, and this is the etymology. So the etymology of poise was the quality of being heavy, steadiness, balance, equilibrium, composure, a state of being equally weighted on either side. And I see that as the moose, that's the poise that we get. That's the kind of grace way they stand. Mm-hmm. And the vexation is almost that battle between, upset, anger, bother, annoy, make angry. Oh, look at my spelling errors in this for people who are
provocation. I honestly looked at that like a regular word and wouldn't have noticed if you had
to harass or to trouble. So it's almost like you have these poised, nature is that poise, and what we've created, even though it's, manufactured and beautiful, it has naturally that tangled, messy, messiness to it within the order. And I thought this was so cleverly titled. It just really got me kind of thinking about that juxtaposition. And it's interesting how a lot of the times we have to study in the city, even if this is something that you're interested in exploring. So it's almost as if your artwork, at least it sounds like to me, after you left the city, it's almost like it had its evolution after that. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like you had room to grow.
So. Yeah, it expanded for sure. It had like opportunity to be like the free thing it's supposed to be, like it's nice to be able to just walk outside and wander through the forest and see what the trees have shed and like what you can pick up and use and rework. And it's just takes a lot of the pressure off, which I think like you were saying with that last piece, living in a place where you are feeling stifled is quite like a weight to carry, right? So kind of that delicate balance of just adapting to where you are and then hopefully being able to end up where you want to be.
Yeah. And even the thing of like holding space, it almost feels as though those antlers are holding like a moment. It feels like they're holding that kind of fleeting thing that is life, not to get too hippy-dippy, but it's like it's just
it's nice. Yeah, that's the way. Thank you to look at it. I haven't broken that one down in a while.
So to go like way back, was this something that you've always done? Was art something that's kind of always on your radar? Were you always kind of interested in it?
I think it was, but I don't think I noticed that until I got into my fibre major. And like the things that I was really interested in were like coming to me and presenting themselves as like a valid interest, not to say that it never was, but just, growing up and like what you see as important and like what other people see as important and like how you're trying to like weigh those things, it's like maybe I don't think I took my creativity as seriously as like maybe someone would if they were like more I don't know, if it felt more like a valid conviction, I guess, that age, you know, when you're young. But like, I think about all the things that like my family's been fortunate enough to travel a lot and like live all over the world. And my mom collects beautiful work from the time she lived in parts of Africa. And so that's all like hand coiled woven baskets and even things like hot mats and placemats for your table and like these like beautiful stretched buffalo skin stools and stuff. And like when I was in my fiber major and it's like such a tactile medium and I'm feeling things all the time and then I'm making things and I'm like feeling these familiar like patterns and textures and then it's all coming back to me and I would be like that little kid who had like the little coiled hot mat and I would just like run my fingers like through it and then like watch how the colors change and like why did the colors change there and like what are they using to like wrap it around. And then like growing up and traveling, we'd go over and see our dad and like in a couple instances in like England and I think Tunisia, I ended up like coming across weavers and things like that. So it's kind of like sprinkled itself into my life without me like realizing I was connected to it until like luckily I made the choice to go to art school and kind of rediscover it all. But I've definitely always been like more of that like left brain where I was just kind of like over here. And yeah, creativity was definitely something that anchored me. It's like an expressive route. So it was like dance or art a little bit, or just like kind of discovering artistic things too.
That's such a beautiful image of little Lydia, you know, thumbing her finger over that weave, because really I think the root of it is curiosity. You know, like I sat at a table, I sat at my grandma's table and I didn't really think of that. You know, she had table mats that were kind of woven and of course they weren't like beautiful African artifacts, but yeah, it's just such a interesting, I guess you naturally have found a way to follow your curiosity. It's just, it's hard. Like it's not easy.
Yeah, it is. And it still is. Like, it's definitely a balance. But when it's like something that, I don't know, I think we have things that are kind of just like rooted in us. And like when we find them, we'll find a way to like kind of keep them going regardless of, I don't want to say like how we're benefiting off of them, because I think if we're doing things for joy, we should be benefiting off of them all the time, but not like prioritizing them as something we have to monetize on, or just because we have this interest, it has to be a career or like something that's going to contribute to like monetizing our lives or adding that kind of like weird security, because it's not a secure thing at all, you know? So it's just like nice to be able to hang on to those things when you're like, when it's not something you can survive on, you know?
Yeah. And removing that pressure. I think we talk a lot about, you know, balancing curiosity with commerciality, and you have to almost put them in two different camps, I think, like, because you do beautiful work that's shown in galleries and sculptural. And I was thinking about it in the shower this morning, like to part with one of those works would be actually like to sell it. I mean, would probably not be as commercially wise of you than to sell. And I've got one of your beautiful, your sewn kind of, your apron that I was lucky enough to grab when I was visiting Canada. But like this kind of thing is a bit easier to part with. It's meant to go and have a home. Whereas it seems as though your sculptures are commercial in themselves because they can go gallery to gallery. So it's almost as if you have, I don't know, from an outsider's perspective, it's like you've mastered that balance. Do you feel?
I don't know. Thank you. That's my Capricorn rising doing its job. My business face is on. But yeah, I can like see that for sure. And I feel like in the right settings they work, because people have like taken those pieces home, and like my sister is like a big fan and she's got a couple of like my first like kind of basket. What would I call it? The word is like right on the tip of it's like a deconstructed basket, I guess, kind of thing, which was my first kind of like venture into sculpture. So she's got them in there, and then people have bought them, and that's nice because like if someone relates to something, like I want them to be able to have that as well. And then it is kind of interesting, like where the materials go and what environment they end up in and stuff as well. But it's definitely not something that I'm like making to market. Like there's a couple pieces that I probably will never sell unless my house just keeps getting smaller. But other than that,
or unless I just beg you for years and years and years, I'll just
you can have them.
No. They need to see the world. That's the thing. I think some art really is better touring in a gallery, like going place to place, than living in a home. And maybe eventually it'll live in
sense. No, that makes sense.
Like it lives its life kind of as a nomad in a way somewhere. Mm-hmm.
For sure. And like exposes it. And that's the thing too, with like every demographic, there's like different experiences, and like foreign materials like that being in like different places, people are going to relate different things to them. And I love, like, my favorite thing about it is the feedback. Like when I have an exhibition, I love that they do the little guest book and you can like read all the comments at the end. And it's just like, it's every time it's a different comment, and like rarely are two people feeling the same thing. And if they are, it's usually the same as what I was going for. So it's just like nice to see all the different connections, which is why like weaving it's like almost cliche how like perfect of a medium it is, just for like, connecting people and connecting the environment and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue. I want to read a bit of your artist bio because it's just so beautifully written, Lydia. I don't know how you manage to do these beautiful things with your hands and your heart, but you do. So I'm just going to read it. I'll put it up on the screen as well. Hopefully no typos this time. So weaving offers a transcript for the inescapable cycle of creation. It is a method that can write a narrative for each organism that serves and fulfills authentic space on Earth. Just as each thread, be it warp or weft, plays a hand in the integrity of the cloth, every species is responsible for maintaining our cohesive ecosystems. The denial of connection and relation between our human species and its biosphere is incessantly compromising the structure of our existence. That is, so powerful. And that last sentence really gets us, it's almost a threat. Like,
yeah, I
know. we will never be connected again, it's really... Do you feel like just following that statement and, from that perspective, and I've asked this question a couple times before, what do you think is the artist's job or your job as an artist?
I think we have a lot to do with reminding and reconnecting people with humanity over everything. Because I think, at least in like our society, like North American, or I guess anything in the Commonwealth, any, like colonized society, our institutions are like very structured and very rigid, and we're like, like cattle herded into streams of what we're like supposed to do. And I think every artist feels a little bit of like rebellion in their heart, because I think they're the people that are kind of like, no, there's many different ways to see the world, and there's many different things we need as communities, and there's many different things that we can offer each other to help, like, build foundations and create security and all that. But we also have a job to remind each other of like the beauty that's around us and the things not to take for granted, and like who we are as humans, and like the experiences we have, and that other people are out there feeling these things as well, especially in the times before social media, where we didn't have, which I am thankful for, but like the direct connections with people to see what everyone's doing and feeling all the. We had special places that we could go, which would usually be like a gallery or like a favorite street wall with, your favorite graffiti on it, or even like there's like guilds all over the place for like knitting and handcrafts and things like that. And we always had a place to go to be like reminded that other people are feeling and other things are going on in the world. And like, this is how we can grieve and express things together. So I think overall, it's just to like, remind us of our humanity and remind us of like the bigger picture and everything in this world that we have to be appreciative for, not just like our little like nuclear bubbles that we create kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the idea of a stitching circle. I feel like I want to start one.
Yeah, you should. That's great. Like, circles are great. And it's nice because then anyone with like any level of anything can come and do their thing. Or if someone wants to learn something new, there might be someone there that's, willing to offer, and you can do like skills exchange and, just they call them like stitch and bitch circles generally, I think. And it's just like, so like the idea of like knitting circles, but they're like pretty loose to whatever you want to do. Just come and let's, craft and connect, which is, it's just such a nice way of doing that,
Do you go to anything like that, or do you?
I did in Nelson. I went to the Weaving Guild a little bit, so that like not as often as I would have liked to, just because it was on like a Tuesday night at 7 or something that wasn't the greatest for me. But and then like here, there's lots of like craft fairs and there's things like that I try to frequent because there's the guilds will put things like that on, so it's very like fiber specific. And because I'm in this kind of like agricultural valley, like wool is a very like accessible thing, so there's lots of like fiber artists around too, which is nice. I don't have much of a circle here yet for sure, but there's like tons of creative people that I've met through work, and I'm sure like inevitably we will get together for craft nights. It's just like the perfect thing.
Yeah, I think you've kind of been focused, and maybe it's a good opportunity to talk a little bit about your studio and how you enter your studio and what it's like. So behind you can you describe for our listeners what we're looking at behind you?
It's pretty much a wall of plants, to be quite honest. It's like a half wall that separates my studio. This is like an old house from like 1970 something, and a few years ago I like bought this little piece of property with my parents, and this kind of house was like run down, so I gutted it, and I've been like slowly chipping away trying to put it back together. So my studio is this little unfinished room in the front of my house, and then in the back is pretty much my living quarters. I tried to dedicate most of my space to my art stuff because it's pretty much all I own. I have one floor loom here, and I have another deconstructed one in the corner over there because I don't know where to set it up yet. And then this is my desk that I'm sitting on right here. So it's a bit of a room. And then the room behind me is just kind of storage at the moment.
Yeah, it's such a cool setup. I love your house so much. It's like a witch's house with your like unfinished wood shelves and kind of all the antlers everywhere and the seaweed. I think it's just such a beautiful, quirky place.
Thank you.
But I do want to talk about, because I think it's hard. I mean, like you've had a studio space outside of your home, and now it's kind of in your home. And I'm wondering how you do you have any routines that you get into to step into that space and go, okay, I'm creating today?
That's been lacking for sure, especially because I've had to be working a lot more too, and just like trying to find that creative oomph at the end of the day, which like ironically should be easy when everything is right here at your fingertips, So that is definitely something that I'm working on, because it was easier before when my studio was not in my house and I like physically had to like make the time to go and be there. I also like really was just like in a phase of my life, and there was a lot going on where like I did want to be there all the time. And then like just recently with moving up here, my priorities have just like kind of shifted a little bit, just like trying to get the house together and like redoing the entire garden and like all that kind of stuff. So I think it's definitely going to be more of a point in this next year, and it'll definitely like motivate me to finish the space as well, because that's also like kind of weird, like, like a space I'm like trying to live in and build at the same time. It's not like super inviting as best as I try. Not everything is like ideally where I want it, because it just physically can't be there yet. But I think if you like can find that like little, even just like little spark to just like sit down and do something for like 20 minutes a day. Like it doesn't even have to be anything insane. It just like maybe there's a little project that you're working on. Like for those aprons, there was like one I was working on for a week where I would literally come and like stitch one pocket and then I would walk away and I was like, hey, that's did my job for the night. Like just got it in there, you know. You kind of just like have to slowly like force that discipline, and then like once you're sitting down with that stuff in front of you, then you'll be able to like slowly like work into other things that are going on, you know, and like be more inspired again. Because yeah, it's just easy to like have everything like sucked out of you, and at the end of the day you just want to like completely shut off and like, you know.
Yeah, I think that's so important in celebrating the little wins, because that's one, you know, line of stitching that you didn't have before. And it's so easy to go in the other direction as a creative and say, oh, I haven't done enough. I'm not doing enough. And it's it's a good challenge, I think, for anyone who's listening. Celebrate your little wins. I think that's so important to do, to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's hard, because I definitely am surrounded by like unfinished projects, and especially because there's just like so many things I want to try. That's the other great thing about art. And that was the great thing about going to art school and like having access to all these mediums that you would never experience before. And like even now it's like I jump back and forth between everything all the time, because I'm like, oh, I want to try this, and oh, I want to try that. And like sometimes they'll crisscross and then your mediums will come together, which is nice, but other times you just have like a multitude of projects happening.
Yeah, so. I wanted to ask you, like, how do you start a project? Like, do you see it in your mind, or do you kind of let the materials like inspire you and guide you? Especially because a lot of them are quite like organic shapes, and you're weaving them into semi-structure. I want to put one on the screen that I absolutely love, called Quietly Rendering. So this one doesn't involve any antlers. It's bamboo, raffia, horsehair. So how would you go about starting this work? How did you,
I think this is when I like just started, like just found out about basketry at school. So I was just starting to experiment with like coiling and weaving baskets, and the like challenge from my instructor was to go bigger, because I was doing like just nice like little handheld pieces kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to go bigger, I'm not going to make it like a functional basket that you can buy like at IKEA or whatever. Like I want it to be able to like hold something, but in a more ethereal way, I guess, maybe not in like a physical way. So again, the materials do lead me like a lot. Like that again was the same bamboo from the vexation piece, because I was still in like the same environment. And the raffia again is like a foreign natural material, but it is something that I had access to, like that was gifted to me. And then the horsehair actually came from my weaving instructor. I think they're ants' horses. So that was like a native material, which is like nice to like have that balance again, right? Like, because I think the moose was an Alberta moose, and then so that was good. And then, but generally, I generally just come across things like antlers. I think are so fantastic, and like they're just like beautiful, and I don't know. I just feel like they have to be like doing
so
things.
Grand.
Yeah, totally. And then like just sticks. I've always loved sticks and rocks. Like I've always been the kid to bring home sticks and rocks in my pocket. So if I find like an interesting stick, I'll like bring it home. I'll think about what materials I have, or maybe what materials I have access to, and what might kind of like come together nicely. And then basically they just kind of lead the way from there. Like I've never been a planner ahead of time for anything. So my art is very like that as well. It's like, what do you have? How is it going to work? And it's not always successful, right? Like I feel like someone throwing pottery, those things just like explode in your hand all the time. Like these things do the same kind of thing. And like because I'm trying with different materials and things I'm not used to, they have their limits as well, right? So you can only push them as far as they'll let you go. Otherwise they break or they snap or they deteriorate, and then everything falls apart. So it's like they very much have like agency in the pieces, I would say. I kind of just offer the technology, the skills to hold them together.
Yeah. Technology is a funny way to describe it, because that's not what you think of as technology in this day.
No, but weaving is definitely a technology, that's for sure. I think the first computer was like based off of the mechanized jacquard loom, if I learned that properly. So, that's the thing. It's, yeah. But that's what technology is, right? It's creating tools to make our lives more convenient, which is also what craft does. It's how we got utensils. It's how we got baskets. It's how we got clothes. Things that can like benefit us,
Yeah, just can't help but think when I asked you if you've used Loom before, and Loom is like a video recording app. And Lydia, of course, is like, of course I have a Loom. Oh.
So do you want a video of me using it?
I mean, yes, I would love that. But yeah, different technology. It speaks to that, the evolution of us, I guess. These things are technology, but it's not what we call technology today in this day and age necessarily, or used to.
Yeah,
some weavers in the audience probably would too. So when you said that these things, like, obviously they fall apart and they break, like how do you look at that and go, oh, okay, that's the direction it wanted to take the work? Or do you throw it and get angry? Or what's your, what happens then in that process?
No, that's pretty much the prior there. I remember I was at the Tate Modern when I was in London doing like a little solo time, I think before I went to visit my dad, and there was a Louise Bourgeois exhibition there. And that was like the first time I'd seen her work in real life. And I was just like, I died. So she's one of my all-time favorites. She does all sorts of things, but I think she's best known for like she makes these gigantic spiders out of like steel.
Wow.
And I think there was one that was called Mother that I took a picture of. There was actually like this like 2-year-old child just like standing underneath it and like looking up at this like mother spider, and it was like this like amazing thing. And I can't remember if the quote was off of the blurb for this one, but I think it was, and I won't remember it exactly, but it says when a spider's web is broken, she doesn't get mad, she weaves and she repairs it. Which is true. Every time you break a spider's web or see like a hole, or like a bug has made a hole in the spider's web, they're like, all right, well, I gotta fix it, otherwise it's not gonna work anymore, kind of thing. So that's like kind of the direction my weaving follows as well. Is it's like, again, they'll go as far as they want to go, and then they'll say, no, that's not gonna work, or it'll offer me like a way to like mend it, or maybe I need to like reintroduce another material to make it stronger, kind of thing. So it's very dependent on each particular piece, which is fun. It's nice. It's like getting to know someone new every time. It's cool.
Yeah, we get that. I feel like that's a real common theme that I see across all of our tutors, is that, they talk to their artwork talks to them, and they talk to it, this conversation of the back and forth. And I definitely have experienced that myself, where I've worked through so much. And I love the idea of like nature has so much to teach us.
Yeah.
That spider, and it's so logical. there's no need to freak out. Like, of course, well, my next job is not to scream and not to throw things. My next job is to simply
solve the problem. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So it's nice to look at those things. And that was funny. And then right before Nick left, there was a spider who had trapped a wasp. And there was like this little wasp and spider war that we tried to watch the whole thing, but it took too long. Anyways, by the time we came back, the spider was like eating the wasp. And then by the time she left, the spider had finished eating it. And then 2 days later, there was a little like sack there. So I was like, oh, little wasp just made a bunch of babies, pretty much. It's like kind of like gross, but it's also like intriguing to watch. And that's the thing. And I think about, I let the spiders live in my house because I hate flies and mosquitoes more than spiders. So they live in here. And as long as they're not like invading my personal space, like my laundry or my bed, they get to like stay in the house, and they're pretty good at doing that. But it's nice just to keep those things around, because that's like, those are the things that we like spray with pesticides and we kill because they're pests or whatever, but we're not realizing like how important they are to like keep the populations of other things down, and how you like look at a little ant or a little spider and literally all it's doing is like fulfilling its purpose within like the greater fabric, right? It's like it's doing its job so other things can do its job, and it's not like getting anything for it. It's just gets to be like alive and gets to like, I always think spiders get like prime real estate. So I think their perk is that they get to live wherever they want. Like over a nice pond or like up in a mossy tree. Like they always just have like the coziest little spots. So very nice.
So true. And their food flies to them. It's like,
yes, right? Like literally set up. In their life.
That is so. And I wonder, like, because you have so many spiders around, have the webs and the way that they're made like inspired any of your works? I
mean, I think it definitely reflects in it, and like you have to weave to hold things together, so that like holds true for them as well. They just have like a little bit of a different technique, right? But I do see it sometimes, and I look at every different spider builds a different web, and so I'm always like fascinated to see like what does the web look like and why is it structured that way. And some it's because they have to hide, and like their web isn't even necessarily sticky, but it's like waiting for a bug to fall and then they have to catch it. It's not about the web catching it kind of thing. And then like other ones are like the perfect quintessential spiral spider web. And I remember looking at one that was like that in my cottage in Nelson, and the little spider had like aligned all the little corpses of its prey like in a perfect line in its web, and then had like repaired the web all the way around it. And I was like, are you just like storing that for later, or is this like a little,
is that an artwork?
Like, what is this? And it was fascinating. And that's the other thing too, is like you look in nature and there's just like perfect symmetry and like perfect shapes and like all these like perfect forms, and they just grow there like organically. It's just like so fascinating.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about your garden as well. I think that's a good segue. So can you explain, I guess, what the property looks like to us? And
try.
What you have growing.
Property. My like little old house is here, and my mom's little suite is over here. And then we're like in the same kind of like compound, I guess you would say. So we have like backyard here. She's got a little bit of backyard over here. And then we have like a big front garden up here. So it was, like crazy. We had to get they had these like mini horses here, just like in the middle of town. So it was like this huge like horse paddock that had accumulated lots of miscellaneous items, I'll say, and like sheds that were falling down, and like multiple campers and all this crazy stuff, and just like out of control. Like we have a very invasive blackberry species here, and the brambles are just like deadly. Like if you don't get them under control, they just take over everything. So it had like pretty much taken over like the whole back corner of the lot. So when I first moved in here, I came and I cleared out as much as I could by hand, like the trash and the blackberries and all the stuff, and just kept like finding all the stuff. And then we eventually had to get an excavator to come in and take down the bigger stuff, and then they smoothed and kind of leveled out the land a little bit so my parents could build their little home, and we had more like a livable space. But we live in a valley, so it's kind of like a riverbed that we live on essentially. So the dirt underneath is like clay and sand and rocks. It's not super amazing, but because the horses were here, we excavated all the manure into the ground, and I think it's helped a lot, which is a super bonus of that, which is nice. But then we lugged in all our own soil, and I got a job at a plant nursery, and I've basically been spending my paycheck on plants instead of my mortgage for the last 2 years.
You know what? Priorities, those. And now you have this beautiful, robust, like I've had the privilege of coming every summer and seeing this beautiful wonderland kind of come into being. And something I've kind of been holding my tongue this whole episode about is that we've Lydia has done all of the work basically on this 2-page document, a downloadable document that essentially tells you what to grow to create your own dyes. And these things are anything from what was one of the ones you could grow in your garden that grow in Australia too? I can't remember.
Goldenrod.
That one. But you can also get them, I think it was, but you can also get these things from the grocery store, which I was so shocked by, that, you know, the skins of an avocado can create red. I had no idea, but it makes it's beautiful. So we've created this downloadable document that will be in the show notes for you, that'll teach you how to hopefully plant, grow, and then extract your own dyes in Lydia's very beautiful, magical, witchy way. So I'm super excited about that. I think I just selfishly wanted that for myself. Oh. Can you just tell me?
Yeah, no, it's a nice thing. And it's just like kind of another way of like bringing the outside in a little bit, right? Whether it's like things that you're making in your home, or like some of these plants I was saying you can grow on your windowsill, because they're mostly, the ones in the example that we've provided are mostly for hardiness zones 5 to 9. So it's like very like kind of North American kind of mid section, like not tropical at all kind of thing. So I think like plants that can survive like temperatures from -1 to -25 is what I'll say is probably the best way to describe that. So if your climate doesn't get that, or if your climate gets that cold, some things won't grow here. So some things though, like indigo, are a little more tender. You can grow them outside in these zones in the summer, but if you want it going all year, you might be able to bring it inside. Or the other alternative is if you don't have that garden space at all, you can grow things easily like marigold and probably indigo and things like in your windowsill or under a little plant lamp. So you can have like 2 or 3 things once in a while going that you can harvest from. And then you can choose to like let those plants go to seed and save those seeds so you can keep planting next year. Like that's a really easy one to do with marigold. Like as soon as the heads die, they just like turn into a pod of seeds, and then they'll, you know, replant themselves all over your garden. So those are like a nice one to even just put in a little garden box on your windowsill and then just let them grow. You can deadhead them. They'll grow more flowers every time you cut the flower off. The flower is what you save for the color. And then you let some of them go to seed, and they will like replant themselves for next spring. So it's like kind of easy to have access to little things that way. Or like you were saying, things you can get from the grocery store, like blackberries, berries, avocado skins, yellow onion skins are on there as well. Turmeric, it's a great one for yellow. Stains everything. Coffee you can use for browns.
Yeah. So what kind of things do you have growing in your garden? Like what I was going to ask you earlier, but I think we started talking about other things. Like what is your favorite color to die?
Oh, I don't know. They're all so pretty. They're all like so nice, and you can change them up all the time. I do have red Hopi amaranth growing in my garden, which I love. And I think it's a traditional plant of the, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, I'm sorry, the Hopi indigenous people. And it's like this bright, like almost fuchsia pink plant. And then it puts out these like seed heads, which are actually green. So you can also eat it as food. But if you dye with it, it makes like this beautiful, like kind of bright pink. Maybe I should have put that one on the handout. Might get a little more like red, but it just adds, like, it's so nice to see things growing in the garden that are already like adding color to their environment, you know. And then you're like, oh, I'm just gonna harness a little bit of that and stick it on my apron, and you know.
Yeah, and that would be such a rewarding process to know that you, and there would be a lot of people in the audience that could relate, I think, because a lot of us are gardeners, I think, and yeah, like to grow your own thing that you can also eat, that you can, you know, wear on your body is just, I can imagine that would be such a rewarding process. I haven't quite got there yet with my garden. We're working on it, but do you have any advice for gardeners like starting out? Do you have any?
I'm like such a feral gardener. It's insane. Like I pretty much like find things that I want or I can use, and then we have made a little greenhouse, which is helpful. So like things that you can't necessarily germinate in like your native conditions, you get started in like February or March kind of thing. Or even again, you can do seeds inside in like a little hot house. If you have like a big plastic container, even you can put a couple seed pots in there and turn it upside down and germinate seeds in there kind of thing. Or if you are planting seeds that are like native to your environment, I literally just like throw them in the bed and then water them, and it's best of luck. We'll see who does the best. And if there's something that like grows that's like struggling and like I see it, like I'll move it if it needs to be moved or whatever. But for the most part, it's like just, it's all trial and error, really. I don't know if there's any like super secrets to it. But just like know your zone. That's important. Know your hardiness zone, so you know what you can plant. And if you want to do perennials, because there's lots of annual stuff you can plant, that means it'll just grow for the one season, and you can usually harvest a lot because it's usually flowers that every time you chop off a head it just grows another one, so they can be quite fruitful. Or perennials that'll come back every year, so it just depends where you live, but any zone definitely has plants that are usable, and if not, there's ways around it as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And be committed to watering, because it takes a lot of watering work.
Yeah, my partner will stand out. He's very committed to the lawn. Tom, he'll stand out and water for ages. Like, okay, it's his meditation. I think it's meditation.
Yeah,
time.
my brother-in-law is the same thing. He loves his lawn.
There's one question that I love to ask because I feel like it sends us on our own little paths and journeys, especially for people who are listening who have really enjoyed looking at your work. The great and lovely Chapel Roan once said, I am your favorite artist's favorite artist. So I'd love to know, who are some of your favorite artists?
Okay, I'm like so terrible with names, but I will like do my best. Well, Louise Bourgeois, as I like mentioned before, I love her. I think she's just, I don't know. She's like one of those like great woman artists who just like bared her soul in like everything she did, you know, and was like super unapologetic and just was like very much a bleeding heart, which I have much respect for. I love, oh my God, now you're asking me, Sally Mann. She's like a photographer. She took just like very raw photos, mostly of like her family and like her kids, but they always just like captured that really just like, it's like that weird aesthetic that's like very dreamy because it's not your reality, but you know it's like grounded in reality because it's someone's kind of thing, and it kind of suspends you in that like, oh, can I imagine myself in this life? But it's not like fiction, it's, you know, it's someone else's life. So it's like, it always really caught me, those photos I really loved. And then so the more recent ones are really hard. I have like a fiber artist in my mind.
We'll put all of their we'll put all of their names in the show notes just so people can have a look and see kind of where your inspirations have come from. I think that would be really cool.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's no pressure. So, are you ready to play a little game?
Yes.
Why did that sound scary? Sorry. So, this is called Every Artist Must. So we begin a sentence and you finish the sentence. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Every artist must own.
Ooh. I'd probably say a journal, to be honest. Just thinking in like general terms, because at least you have somewhere to put your ideas. If you don't have the materials, you need to make them right away. I think I would say that.
Awesome. Okay. Every artist must create.
Ooh. Things that are authentic to them. I don't think people should ever create for anyone but themselves. I think it's the one place that we can be totally selfish and not feel selfish about it.
I love that. Every artist must avoid.
Oh, listening to people. Like, for the most part, I mean, like, learning and sharing information is like not the same as listening to all the voices that you come in contact to, like, around your work, because there'll likely be a lot of praise, but there's also lots of people that are trying to tell you how you should be doing something. And if they're not telling you in a way that's like constructive to your, I would say probably like more about like how you're doing it than what you're doing, like the technologies that you're using, then their opinion doesn't really matter. Because again, it goes back to that autonomy of, this is the only thing that's really yours. So no one else can really tell you how to do it.
Yeah, I like that. Every artist must learn.
I think new skills, or at least new information. I think it's really easy to get stagnant when you get super excited about your practice and then you go hard with it for a long time, and you might be like learning within that practice. But I think if there's something else that's kind of like nagging at you that you want to learn, I think you should at least dip your toe in.
Mm-hmm. Every artist must remember.
God, I have a terrible memory as well. I don't remember anything. Every artist must remember. I think maybe what it is that like pushes your creativity. So I mean, for me, I think maybe it's that nostalgia of just people creating functional things for themselves. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it goes back to that curiosity that we were talking about earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Like following that curiosity in your creativity.
Yeah, for sure. Just like remember your naivety and like be vulnerable to learning new things too, because that is hard. It's hard to be bad at something right away.
Yeah, sit in the badness of it. Be bad.
Exactly.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I have loved this conversation, and I will let you get back to your kelp because I've felt the kelp clock on us this whole time. Your kelp is dry now.
It's growing.
But I would love to know, just for our listeners, if you could tell us, you've got a show coming up. If you could give us a bit of detail where we can see you for our Canadians.
Yes, they just had to email me new dates again. So it's from January 22nd to March 2nd, 2026. It's hosted by the Langley Arts Council at their main hall gallery in the Aldergrove Kinsman Community Center. So it's in Langley. It's on the mainland of Vancouver.
Cool.
So that's my next one in 2026. Yeah.
So we can see your work there. We can see it also on your website. And I believe you have things available for purchase on your website too.
Yeah,
correct me. Yeah.
I kind of operate better through DM, to be quite honest. If you see something that you like, let me know.
So DM Lydia, and we will be releasing the downloadable in the show notes. And we've also provided you with Lydia's email if you have any questions for her on that, or on weaving, or on anything in this conversation. Bother Lydia. Let's all email her.
Like me, like a little bee in your garden. Yeah. I hope people try to find things in their neighborhood, or even just make a challenge of what native species in your neighborhood you can use as a color. You have to be careful, because sometimes people will say beets and cabbage and stuff, and those things do make a beautiful color, but they're not necessarily color fast or light fast, so they won't hold in the fabric. So just be mindful when you're looking up information too, that it's gonna work. That's really disappointing to brew with a beautiful pot of color and then just watch it all wash out of your fabric when you're sending
all that work. Yeah, well, note that. Follow our document. Don't look at the others. Follow ours.
It is easy. There's lots of good information out there.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you so much, Lydia. I appreciate your time. And as I said, I'll let you get back to your kelp.
Well, thanks. I'll let you get back to your whole day you have ahead of you.
Yes, and yours is just ending. Oh, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you. And thanks to everybody for listening.
Thanks for being here with us.
Okay, bye.